Hello and welcome to the Alcohol Free Vibes podcast, a high vibe space where we talk about all things spirituality, manifestation, raising our vibrations, and walking away from the manifestation block that is alcohol. Whether you're newly sober, sober curious, or you've been sober for a long time, this is the place for you if you want to learn more about spirituality, manifestation, and how letting go of alcohol can make you so much more powerful at manifesting. It's time to stop drinking, start living, raise our vibrations, and step into our manifestation power. Let's get started. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Alcohol Free Vibes podcast. In this week's episode, I speak to the lovely Didi, who is also known as Sober Chapters on Instagram, all about her alcohol-free manifestation journey, and thankfully how this podcast has helped her so much. So I'm so grateful and happy to hear that. So she's going to be coming on to talk to us all about her sober journey. But before we get going with the interview, let me just remind you that Sober and Soulful is about to drop. So the next round of Sober and Soulful starts on the 4th of September at 7:30 p.m. UK time. So if you have had a summer of going back and forth a bit with your drinking, or if you're in the midst of that right now, and you know that in September you really want to get a grip of it, then this could be for you. I always think September's a little bit like January. It's the January that comes after the summer holidays, right? So September is a great time to get going with some new goals, with a new fresh start, a great start to the final chapter of the year. So if you'd like to get involved, know that if you do, I will help you let go of any FOMO that you have around letting go of alcohol. So it won't be hard. You won't need willpower. It won't be white knuckling it. That's the opposite of what I think is helpful when we stop drinking. I will help you make it effortless and delicious, enjoyable, the biggest treat you've ever given yourself to let go of alcohol. And that is actually how sobriety feels if you use the abundance mindset that I use when I let go of, I use it now all the time, but I help my clients to use it when they let go of alcohol, the abundance approach, as I like to call it. So if you would like to get involved, it's a 6-week course. Starts the 4th of September for only £333. You also get workbooks, meditation audios. Obviously, you get the community, the group of people who are inside the container with you, and you get unlimited access to any future rounds of Sober and Soulful. So you've always got that resource to drop back into every time the course is launched. And the course launches 3 to 4 times a year, depending on what I've got going on. So if you would like to get involved, do send me an email to thrive@coachingbyaneka.co.uk. If you'd like to book a free discovery call to ask me any questions about it, then go for it. If you look at the show notes as well, you'll see all the links to my other offerings that I normally talk about on here. But this week, let's just talk about Sober and Soulful, and I'll leave the rest to you if you want to have a look at what else I offer. Right. Now that we've got that off our chest, without further ado, let's speak to the lovely Didi and find out all about her alcohol-free magical manifesting journey. Hello, Didi. How are you today?
Hi, Anneka. I'm good, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm good. It's so nice to have you on the podcast. Let's begin with you giving us a little bit of an introduction about yourself.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I am Didi. I currently live in Perth in Western Australia. So I've actually been here 7 years tomorrow. And I left England. You can probably tell from my accent that I'm originally from England. I left England when I was 30, so 9 years ago, to embark on a global recruitment career. I spent a couple of years in Malta and then ended up in Perth. And I guess I still work in recruitment. That's still my day job. And then my passion is all things alcohol-free empowerment. And I am 14 months into a sober chapter.
Amazing. Okay, so let's start at the very beginning then. Your sober chapter. So first of all, congratulations. 14 months is an amazing achievement.
Thank you.
But how did it start? What was the catalyst that started you off on this journey?
So, yeah, I mean, there's so much to say because I have had this relationship on and off with alcohol for years, literally years. I guess like I was always a party girl. Like I loved drinking in my teenage years and my 20s. Yeah, like I drank all the way through, and then never really had like an issue in terms of like the negative side effects until I got to Australia in my early 30s when like things changed in my life. And it was more about like the anxiety and the negative relationship with myself that I ended up having, like on the hangovers, even just after a few wines. And yeah, just a lot of shame around my situation. So quite a lot had changed. Like I was, I guess, on track to be exactly where I wanted to be in my 30s. I moved to Australia with a lifelong partner, like this global recruitment career. I thought I had everything sorted. And then within the first 6 to 12 months of being here, sadly he left, and also the company that I moved here with, they pulled out of the Asia Pacific market. So suddenly like my two anchors had gone, and that's when like everything changed. And yeah, the negative relationship with myself happened.
Interesting. So from a manifestation perspective then, what it sounds like to me is that you were rock bottomed by the universe. The universe pulled the rug from underneath you and said, Didi, this is not the direction we're supposed to be going in. And it's what we could call like a corrective experience. And they really hurt, these corrective experiences.
Yeah.
They are actually the universe lovingly being like, yeah, you're going in completely the wrong direction. We need to like nudge you this way instead, right?
Totally. Yeah, completely. Yeah, it was, I don't even recognize the person that I was back then. So I was like 32 or 30, I think 33. And like I say, at 32, I thought I ticked all the boxes, and I was like, everything was great, was going to live the Australian dream. And then yeah, like the rug was literally pulled from underneath me, and it meant that I had to really dig deep. And that was the start of my like growth and personal development journey. Which now like I just wouldn't change anything that's happened. Like it's been absolutely amazing, but it took me a very long time to get to this point with alcohol. And yeah, like I've been on and off since I was 33, and yeah, there's been a lot.
Yeah, and I always say there's magic in the darkness, and really
Yeah.
you're describing like, yeah, it was dark, but that was where the magic started, even though it might not have felt like it at the time. I mean,
Yeah.
what would you say if you could go back to the version of you when the rug had just been pulled from underneath you? What would you tell her, knowing what you know now?
Just that everything is happening for you, and it's going to be perfect, and you're going to be happier than you ever thought you could possibly be. And look, I mean, the shame that I had back then was because I was like, oh my God, I thought everything was lined up and I was going to be, settling down, having children, everything by the age that, you think you should be. And then I had all this shame around being single and starting again. And 6 years later, I'm still single. And if someone had said to me, you're going to be going into your 40s single, I would have just absolutely freaked out. That was everything that I was fearful of. I was fearful of aging. I was fearful of so much stuff. And it's like I've just done like a complete like turn on it. And now I'm just so excited about my 40s, and just so much peace. And yeah, it's basically the connection to like my higher self that's helped me with that. And yeah, all the spiritual stuff, which I'm sure we'll go into lots.
Yeah, that is amazing. I'm loving everything I'm hearing. Okay, so let's go rewind a little bit. So
Yeah.
something that completely resonates with me, right? So it's this on-off relationship with alcohol in our 30s. Yep, that was me too. I mean, I'm 39, we're exactly the same age. In my early 30s, it was that like back and forth. It was that knowing really deep down, like this is not the path, but then you just go back to it. So what was your experience in terms of noticing how your spirituality and your personal growth kind of started when you were going back and forth from drinking?
Yeah, well, it's funny because I was actually like trying to figure out that timeline. And so, long story short, my big sister's very spiritual. And we had decided to go to a Tony Robbins event together at the end of 2018. So 2017 and 2018 were like my rock bottom years where I was drinking more than I wanted to be. I had all the shame, had all these negative, like, hangovers, negative looping with my relationship with myself. And then went to Tony Robbins, and he talked about spirituality, right? And I had like no idea how to rate myself because I didn't even really know what it meant. And my sister's there, meditating in the bedroom with me, and I just thought she was bonkers at the time. And that was only like 5 years ago. And the things that have happened since then have been incredible. So that opened my eyes to what it was. And then at the beginning of 2019, we did like a walking challenge at work, and we had to do, I think, like 15,000 steps a day. So I just started walking and listening to all these books and like podcasts, like threw myself into that world and listened to Gabby Bernstein, The Universe Has Your Back, and I listened to The Secret. And at the time I was doing like various like detoxes. I would do like I recognized that alcohol wasn't good for me, so I would do like long breaks. And I suddenly started to feel really, really connected. And I started to see all these signs. And specifically, and you'll probably laugh, I always feel really embarrassed about this, but I started seeing the number 69 everywhere, like literally everywhere. So I would see it on my phone. I would see it on candidate CVs at work. Just even like on tickets and things like this. It was crazy.
I'm a Cancerian. That's the Cancerian symbol.
No way. Yeah. There you go.
I see that number quite a lot too.
It doesn't surprise me because honestly, when I was saying to you, when I reached out to you about how your podcast made such a huge difference to me, it was because I was literally listening to you, and things you were saying was like confirming everything that I was feeling and thinking. And I was like, oh my God, this is actually real. This is what's happening. So that's why you were so pivotal in like me, like joining all the dots together, basically. And so I would see that. So it started that way. I even went to an alcohol-free drinks night in 2021, I think it was, like sort of during that like weird phase with COVID. And I went on my own to try and make some new friends, and they gave me a ticket when I walked in. And then like about half an hour in, I just felt really lonely and like just kind of didn't really know if I wanted to be there and wanted to go back to my mates, I suppose. And anyway, I looked down at this ticket and it was the number 69, and I got goosebumps through my whole body. And I was like, the universe is literally screaming at me to give up alcohol long term. But I still went back to that kind of like mindful drinking again because like I didn't have a dependency, right? And I had such good like affiliation with alcohol from all the celebrations as a family growing up, and the thought of never drinking again was just wasn't a thing.
So how do you feel now about not drinking again?
So so it's funny, right? So my sober chapter, the whole reason I did that was because I still couldn't say forever. So I did a chapter instead, which was from 38 last year to 40 next year. So I'm 14 months in, and I'm not going back. Absolutely not. It's got too good now, but I feel like I tricked myself into it. That's the best thing, because if someone had said to me, you could never ever have another drink again, I would have resisted completely. I just wouldn't have given up. So it's been really, really good. Yeah.
There is a shift, isn't there, where you have to like not think about it, and then you get to a tipping point where it's just never going to happen. I was saying to one of my clients recently that I'm now in the space where if someone said to you like, oh, you can be a millionaire, but you have to be a millionaire forever. So is that okay? Like, never say never, don't be poor again. But if you really, are you all right with saying forever? And obviously be like, I don't want that to run out. And I feel the same about being alcohol free. I'm like, why would I not want it to last forever? Like, it's the same as like that kind of carrot feeling.
I think when you start to see like the real magic in it, it's like, you can't. And don't get me wrong, there's been moments, but I just see them as tests now, and there's always more on the other side. And I listened to one of your podcasts the other day actually about when you said about self-witnessing, and I resonated so much with that as well, because it's like I recognize it in myself. I can feel it. I think another thing that was fundamental for me was recognizing that it was kind of like fueling me living in my head, like, and fueling my ego. And so now it's like I can really see when my ego is coming in and I'm in my head versus when I'm in my heart. And then I can make that distinction. all my old negative thoughts come in, and then it's kind of like it's temporary, and then it passes, and I don't know, exactly what I mean.
I always say that alcohol really turns up the voice of the ego, so it's really loud, which is obviously the voice of fear and catastrophe, and it's it's so much louder than a voice of intuition. Our poor gentle voice of intuition didn't have a fighting chance when you're drinking alcohol, because it's just like, hello, and then we just like have this like big subwoofer of our ego like going over the top, and we just can't connect with it, can we, in the same way? So I'm able to distinguish between the two voices in sobriety is like amazing, isn't it?
It's been incredible.
Okay, so can you talk to us about some of your pivotal moments in terms of your spiritual growth, and the pivotal moments, magical moments where things kind of occurred to you?
So I guess seeing the number 69 everywhere, and knowing that like whenever it's almost like whenever I like surrender to the fact that this is my life, that I'm going to be living alcohol free, and that I feel like it's all just alignment with my true purpose, and that's when literally the universe hammers me. Like I just see the 69 everywhere, like even reaching out to you. Like I had that sort of like intuitive download to do that, and it's like you say, it's that small like voice, like I call it like a soul's whisper or whatever, or intuition. And I reached out to you, and then as I looked on your Instagram, like you had something 69 followers, and I was like, yeah, of course. And I took a screenshot. And then ever since we'd arranged it, I've just been seeing the number everywhere. So I mean, that's just one example of it. But other things that have happened that just confirm it is like I don't know, like little things, like I start attracting people that don't drink all the time as well, like Uber drivers and things. So like when I got back to, I actually went back to Europe last year and worked my recruitment job from there, which was another magical manifestation that I never thought would happen. But then when I came back to Perth and I came back alcohol free, I think one of the first Uber drivers that picked me up, like I got in and I just had this feeling that he was also alcohol free, and we started talking, and he just looked at me and he said, strap yourself in, love, you're in for a magical ride. And I just get this goosebump thing, and it's just that confirmation all the time that it's really cool.
You can tell there is a certain aura around people that don't drink that you can pick up on. I completely hear you. It's a vibrational thing, isn't it? Totally vibrational. Okay, so I'm sure there are lots of people listening who also at points in their journey where they might be being tested or be having wobbles, and I'm sure they can resonate with lots of the things that you're talking about. But can you offer some experience or advice around how you navigated through these tests using your spiritual tools?
I think usually like journaling's been massive for me, and like really sitting with that. And then also I think like revisiting like the pain that hangovers caused me, and also revisiting what I've been able to attract in since removing alcohol, and what I know I can still attract in as a result as well. And then it's always about, for me, like I know that it's my ego, I know that I'm in my head, so it's about getting myself back to my heart. And once I get myself back to my heart, that's when the moment passes, and really I want to stay alcohol free indefinitely. So I don't know, I always connect to my body in the morning. Like I make sure I don't like touch my phone until I've done my breath work and my meditation in the morning. And then just all the walking outside in nature as well, and journaling, like I say, has been absolutely huge for me, definitely. And you can start to really recognize your patterns, I think, when you get it all out on paper and going back through it.
I love that distinction between noticing that potentially when you're triggered to want to drink, it's because you're in your head, and it's about coming back to your heart and using all of these different spiritual practices to come back to your heart. And what I'm really hearing when you're talking about the the journaling, the breath work, the walks in nature, is there's a sense of release that we need to do when we feel triggered, because when we were drinking, we were used to pushing our feelings back down, right? We're like, oh, that's inconvenient. Let me pour some wine over that and it will go away. And when in sobriety, we do the opposite. We're like, oh, that feels really uncomfortable. Let me feel that and then release it. And then I can come back to baseline, which is to my heart, right? And it sounds to me that's what you're doing when you feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, definitely. And like you say, like feeling all your feelings as well, like that's just so important. And I am lucky. I mean, one of the things that I've done as a result actually of manifesting a lot of really good things in my day job, I've like gone fully invested in myself and doing the inner work. And I actually have a spiritual coach who's really, really helped me to identify all of that stuff. And, you know, she was, you know, she pointed out that my ego will always want me to stay small, and it will always want me to go back to drinking, and it will always want to try and keep me safe. And it's that fearful element, isn't it? So I always know that it will pass, and I don't know, it's interesting. It's really interesting.
Yeah, and it's so supportive, isn't it, having someone to talk to about all of these things to help us. I always say it's about making sense of ourselves and other people. Like, we can accept and surrender to anything, however uncomfortable, if it makes sense. And that's what we're doing when we have a coach, right? So on the note of manifestation, you know, I'm all about alcohol-free manifestation. So tell us, what have you manifested since you stopped drinking?
So I was thinking about this, and there's been so much, and there was actually a lot, and this is where you helped me. So there was a lot that I manifested when I was doing my longer breaks. So then I would go back to drinking. So I would go off on my longer breaks, write down in my journal, and then I'd go back to drinking, and then it was almost like it had happened. But I definitely manifested my house that I have in Perth. Amazing. And it was also a case of surrender as well, because I actually I saw it, and then I had to sort of let it go because there was a lot of complications. But I had this kind of feeling that if it was meant to be mine, it would be. And it ended up coming back to me like 6 months later. And it was just incredible what happened. And then also I manifested like my dream life, which is to be able to work globally with, you know, in recruitment, which I never ever thought would happen. So that happened. And then also just loads of travel, loads of opportunities, loads of amazing people, like mentors and things, and you know, becoming a coach as well, which I never thought I would end up doing. I never had the confidence to do that before. So yeah, it's been a lot.
That's amazing. And I think going back to the ego, it's so important to have like checkpoints where we think about like, what have I actually manifested over these past few months? Because the ego loves to talk us out of success. My ego does it all the time. It's like, well, you haven't really accomplished anything, have you? And then you're like, hang on a minute, let's just write down all the things I've manifested this month. But your ego is still trying to tell you, oh no, but it doesn't really count. Like, why? And you have to kind of,
we're so hard on ourselves.
Yeah.
Totally. I'm super hard on myself, and that's been another thing for me. Has been, I really believe that when you remove alcohol, it just shines a light on all of those like fears and insecurities, and it really enables you to go in and work on those. And that was the whole concept of my sober chapter, was just to face all these fears. Like doing this now, like you can probably tell, like I'm super nervous. Like I'm really confident in my day job, and then I just get so worried when it comes to being vulnerable and talking about like myself like this. So again, it's facing it head on, isn't it? And I think I heard Gabby Bernstein say something recently that was like, you can't heal what you don't reveal. And I don't think I even knew what my insecurities were before. I didn't have a clue. I think I wasn't drunk permanently, and I wasn't an alcoholic or anything, but at the same time, like I don't think I ever really knew myself, like not properly.
Crazy, isn't it? I don't know if you've heard of Lacey Phillips, but she's like my favorite manifestation person, has been since I started this journey. And she always talks about how really when we want to manifest the big stuff, it's about walking through fears, and it's about regulating our nervous system so that we can walk through fears in a graceful, confident way. And that's really what you're describing, and it's on so many levels, isn't it? It's coming out of our comfort zone, it's asking for more, it's saying no when we need to say no, putting those boundaries out, It's kind of advocating for ourselves whilst regulating our nervous system. And when we're drinking, we just don't do that. And as you say, it doesn't matter how dependent or not dependent we are. Alcohol is something that we've been trained and brainwashed to use to not listen to ourselves. It's an act of ignoring ourselves, and therefore it's an act of staying small and staying safe and not walking through those fears that we need to walk through to manifest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. And I just, that's where I was so stuck, like in staying small in my comfort zone was actually what the whole problem was, because that's where I just knew there was more, and I felt so bored and so demotivated and so stuck in Groundhog Day. And I knew there was more, but I had like really no idea like what that looked like at all. So it's been like just life changing, to be honest.
Yeah.
Literally.
Oh, you're making me feel super inspired and excited. It's 9 o'clock in the morning in the UK, or 9:20. I know it's later in the day for you in Perth, but what a great pet to start the day on.
You inspire me every week. So.
It's like a equal transaction. So tell us more about your coaching then, because lots of people find that when they do the healing work that they want to then go into that kind of energy of service where we give back and we help other people. So tell us more about that.
Yeah, so long story short, my friends had always said to me that I should be a coach, but naturally ego was so strong, all that fear, like never thought that it was something that I could do. And I look back at journals now, and it was written in so many of my journals that I wanted to do it. And so then when I gave up last year, I joined so I have a business coach called Carolina. She runs Euphoric. She's over in the States.
Oh yeah, I know her.
So it was her podcast and your podcast. And I think I actually, like, when I first set up Instagram, I think I tagged you in it as being like the two of you that had helped me so much. And she did this course called Become Emboldened, and I joined that when I first gave up. And she talked about how, like, just take some inspired action and just see if it's, the route that you want to go down. And so I did like a little, I guess like a coaching practitioner course, like a general life coaching one, and just absolutely loved it. And then that just opened up all these opportunities. And then I've just certified with Carolina in 4 of the different modalities that she runs, and just everything's happening now. I suppose I've just like set up my website, and I'm about to start doing some trauma informed work as well with another amazing woman in America, because I think it's so important to incorporate that. And it's just like it's kind of all happening just now. So I think the dream would be to just keep learning as much myself and keep healing as much myself, so that I can help others to go through exactly the same thing.
Oh, that's totally resonates with me. I realized when I was doing some kind of inner thinking, if you like, that my life purpose is I heal myself so I can heal others. And I like live by that. Every time anything comes up for me, I'm like, oh, let's roll our sleeves up and have a look at this, because A, I get to heal myself, but B, everything I learn through doing this is professional development, and I can help other people because I've done it on myself. So it's like it's a two prong, isn't it?
It's amazing, because I just don't think it ever stops. Like I feel like I just want to keep growing and learning, like all the time. And I think that was another thing for me. Like I didn't have any sort of major trauma growing up that I could really pinpoint why I had these patterns either, because I had a lot of patterns when I drank, particularly with men. So in the way that I was in relationships, and I just didn't have a clue that I had them. And so it took me a really long time, because it was much more about like the little T's, I suppose, and various different things that added up. So that's been really interesting, like uncovering all of that. And I think that's why it's taken me such a long time. I think because I was such a difficult client for people over the years, I think I had a few coaches that just couldn't get to the bottom of like kind of what was going on for me. So I think I've tried so much and got to the point that now I really, really understand it, which I guess is a blessing, as we know.
That's going to make you a great coach. And I think as well, when we get to this point in our journey, we shame ourselves so much. Like I shamed myself for ages, right? Because as you probably know from listening to the podcast, I stopped drinking when I was 25 and I loved it. And then I went back to it for like 10 years, and I was going back and forth. And that shame I had so much shame around the fact that I couldn't like stick to it and I couldn't make my mind up, and like, oh, you know, you're not really a proper sober person. That held me back for so long. And now I'm like, no, that is one of my strengths as a coach, because I've tried every single way of not drinking. I know all the different, not all, we can't know everything, can we? But I can empathize with people in so many different ways, because I didn't just stop and then it was easy and then I'm like, oh, I know everything about being sober. No, I went through it all.
Yeah, it's been like a huge journey, right? Exactly. I mean, that was one of the things that I sort of was thinking before I came on, because there's so much to it. Like there's been so many parts to it. It's crazy, but yeah, like you say, you just know so much more because of it. Because I always just think like I didn't have a rock bottom with it either. Like, don't get me wrong, there was probably a few times where I should have gone, right, that was enough after like a massive night. But yeah, it's just been such an accumulation. Yeah.
I hear you. I for me as well, like, I don't know if this resonates with you, but I kind of had a bit of a rock bottom just after I stopped drinking for the last time, because I stopped and then I started being like super keen about doing loads of work on myself. And I went in really hard and really fast. And I think I just re-traumatized myself. I brought loads of stuff up from the past.
Yeah.
And and I had a bit of a wobble, but it was all for the best and it was all healing in the end. But I think some of my friends were like, are you okay? I was like, yeah, I'm processing.
Again, it's just giving you so much experience, right? And then it's like you just know the next time, yep, there it is.
And I also know about when I'm coaching people, about helping them just take it bit by bit. Don't go into it like a bull in a china shop. I mean, I think it's because I've got an Aries moon. I'm very into astrology. Like, it's like pretty textbook, but I was like, no, not to 100. Let's go, people. I haven't got time to waste here. And I think I actually gave myself horrendous rosacea and IBS because I just re-traumatized.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. Just went all in. Yeah.
Laugh at myself and go, no. So yeah.
I know. I mean, I definitely have had moments, but I think that's the other beauty of it as well, isn't it? It's like, because I got obsessed with personal growth, and I still am. I think, like, you know, there will be times where it's like we get exhausted and, you know, then I don't know, I'll beat myself up because I'm not doing enough. But I always have this thing where I think, like, if you're into growth, like, there's nothing better than being alcohol free, because every single day is growth, right? And even if you just lie on the sofa and do nothing, you've done another day of
something. You're not numbing, aren't you? Sometimes I'm like, I'll like lie on my sofa and I'll like close my eyes and I'll like daydream, and I think that this is really healing. I'm processing things I want to process, and I'm, you know, potentially manifesting if I'm visualizing things that I want, whereas in the past I would have just had a glass of wine and just turned my brain off. Every day's a winner when you don't drink, even when it's a bad day, quote unquote bad day. I've literally loved chatting to you. I'd really like to connect with you again. I feel like we are so aligned, so similar, and I love that we're like exactly the same age. We're definitely meant to connect. I want to share something else with you. In my little apartment that I live in Shrewsbury, when I look out of my bedroom window, guess what number door I always can see right from my bedroom window?
69.
So yeah, awesome. I was meant to tell you that. That's the sign for you. I love signs. Yeah,
I love it. I'm actually not far from you from back home either. I'm Worcestershire, so I was always like, I actually nearly reached out to you when I was back home earlier in the year, and then I ended up doing so much travel. But it's definitely been a manifestation of mine to meet you and chat to you, because it was.
Next time you're in the UK, come down to Shrewsbury. I'll show you around. We can go for lunch. It'll be great.
Yeah, awesome.
Amazing.
Oh, thank you.
I bet everyone listening wants to find you online. So could you share with us where we can find you?
Yeah, so my Instagram is sober_chapters, and I'm just having everything finalized with the website. So that'll be soberchapters.com. And I recorded my first episode of my podcast only on Friday, and I'm going to be writing a book as well. So I think it's all happening at the moment.
That's so cool. Well, I look forward to hearing all about it. And, you know, when you've written your book, you can come back on and tell us all about that as well.
Thank you, Anneka. It's been a pleasure.
Take care.
Thank you so much for listening to me today. If you would like to have the chance of winning a free one-to-one coaching session with me, then I'd love it if you could leave me a 5-star review. All you need to do is take a screenshot of the review and send it to me at thrive@coachingbyaneka.co.uk, and I would love to connect with you. If you would like to connect with me further and you'd like to download my free guide, then please go to my website and you can do that, and you'll be added to my mail list. Or if you would just like to book in a free discovery call with me, then you can do so via my email address or through my website. All of these links will be in the show notes. And I hope you have a wonderful, magical, sober week, and I will see you this time next week.